How to destroy the French defense in chess. And we got this game by Fabiano Caruana against Martin Neubauer. And Fabiano Caruana rating at this moment was 2513, and his opponent rating was 2474. And this was all the way back in 2007 before Magnus Carlsen was a world champion. Let's get into this game right quick. So the game started off with Fabiano Caruana doing e4, e6, d4, d5, initiating the French defense. After d5, we got the move knight c3, knight f6, and then we have the move bishop g5, bishop e7, breaking the pin by the knight, and then Fabiano Caruana attacked the knight with the pawn going e5. After attacking the knight, this is still main opening theory. Knight on the f5 goes to d7, then Fabiano Caruana went h4, which is the second most popular move in this opening. So after h4, his opponent did one inaccuracy by doing the move knight to c6. After knight c6, Fabiano Caruana was like, okay, I'm just gonna develop my pieces like I'm supposed to do. And so he did knight f3, knight b6, and then bishop d3, just developing pieces like normal. After bishop d3, then we have to move bishop d7 and a3, maybe pushing up b4 in the future. We don't know. But what I do know is that most people do not like the French defense because of the cramped position that black has right now. And they didn't even do c5. So I don't know what black is even deciding on doing for their future plans. White is already up about like 1.7 points right now, so I would not play this opening anymore if I was him. But after the move, what was it, a3, we got the move a6, and then we have an unorthodox move that is actually the best move of the position, one of the best moves of the position. Fabi decided to do a rook lift in this position. Who would have ever thought about doing the move rook h3? Because you might be thinking, dang, wasn't the king supposed to castle here? Fabiano Caruana was like, no, the king was not supposed to castle here, not at all. And then how black dealt with this move, he just did h6. Once a move like rook h3 is played, you already know that you're out of the opening. So let's calculate this right quick. Let's look at our board. Is anybody up in material? No, it's still equal. King safety? Well, I would say that it's still equal at this moment. Development time? I would say that white has a little bit more development than his opponent, especially with that move rook to h3. Even though didn't castle to get that rook developed, it's one more piece more than black. Center control, have to give it to white. Since black didn't do the move c5, if they would have done the move c5, I would have gave them central control, but they don't got that. Pawn structure equal, and white definitely has more space, and that's the reason why white has a somewhat bigger advantage than his counterpart. So let's just think about this in the back of your head while the moves commence. Because after the move h6, bishop e3, then knight to a7, you already know that something is totally wrong when you see moves like this. What are they trying to do? Knight b5? Hopefully, maybe. But what happens after Fabiano does the move rook g3, causing his own threats on the king side? And why not attack where you have the most leverage, the most power? Clearly, white should be attacking on the king side and black should be attacking on the queen side, but there's no future attack on the queen side instead of doing the move c5. Now with rook g3, something's gonna have to be dealt with of that pawn on g7. If rook g8 is played, bishop takes on h6 because that pawn is pinned. So the only way to defend that is going bishop f8, which was played in the game. Even back then, Fabiano knew that, hey, I'm gonna look at my pieces and put them on better squares. And so what happened was he figured that this knight wasn't doing anything, and he moved that knight to e2. After moving that knight to e2, bishop b5, that knight moved to f4. didn't care about the trade on the d3 square because there's tension with the bishops. Next move, knight d7. That knight on f4 moved to h5. That knight was a sore loser at c3, not doing anything, and he became a star. That knight became a star, attacking the g7 pawn, and now what is black supposed to do? And so he did the unthinkable, the biggest weakness of the game he created. He did g6. And when you get into a position like this, just think, how can I take advantage of it? My opponent is giving me an opportunity. There has to be some type of forcing move to destroy his French defense, to get behind this little wall that he thinks that he has here. Because if we do nothing, then c5 is going to be coming next. Bishop takes our bishop on the d3 square. Our king is still in the center. We're going to have to seize the advantage right now. So Fabiano played the move. Rook takes on g6. After rook takes on g6, f takes on g6, which is more of a blunder. Bishop takes on g6. And the king moved up to e7. So now we're going to have to continue the attack at this moment. And remember, now we sacrificed material. We sacrificed material for what? What do we sacrifice material for? Better king safety, since their king is vulnerable, and more development. And we already had that. So obviously the computer would be like, no, you're like 7 points up now. Clearly, this is idiotic. Like, why did you do this? Martin. After the king moved up to king e7, Fabiano Caruana was like, I'm going to continue my attack by going to knight g5. Can't take the knight because bishop takes on g5, and the game ends abruptly after I take your queen because that would be a skewer. So black only move that he played was bishop g7, even though that we could have just took the bishop and did a whole lot of other moves, just like, I don't know, queen g4, and what's the other move? a4. Even a4 was a valid move, just playing all the way over here. Fabiano did the best move by taking on the e6 square. After knight takes on the e6, if king takes, queen g4 will definitely be coming next, and once the queen gets into the game, that would be a quick checkmate. So after the move, knight takes on e6, queen g8, knight e takes on g7. After knight e takes on g7, black finally decided to get all of his pieces on the defense, but then Fabiano Caruana wondered, how can I don't know, make black's position hopeless? What can I realize, or what simple thing can I push to make him realize, oh snap, there's no winning this? In this position, white has two passed pawns now. This e pawn and this f pawn. And this is a protected passed pawn. So he did the move f4. F4, realizing, making his opponent realize these pawns are just going to be pushed up now. And this knight, bishop, and knight is holding back the two rooks and the queen. This knight, these knights, and this bishop is holding back 19 points. You know how crazy that is? Don't you think that they should be doing a better job than being held back by two knights and a bishop? It's crazy. After seeing these connected passed pawns, Martin decided to get the king out of dodge, so he did the move king d8. And then Fabiano was like, I'm still gonna push this pawn. I'm still gonna push this pawn. King moved to c8. Fabiano, what did he do? He did queen g4. Why not? Bring more power on the king's side. That's where he was strongest at. When you're facing a grandmaster, you pull all the punches. You make sure that their position is horrible and that they have no way of coming back from this position. So after queen g4, c5 finally being played, and then Fabiano Caruana didn't even care about this d4 pawn being attacked, so he just queenside castled. Why not get the last piece into the game? You have time. These pieces aren't doing anything. So after c takes on d4, Fabiano Caruana did not care that this d4 pawn was captured. Poor d4 pawn, because he just played the move bishop f4. After bishop f4, knight c6, f6, his opponent resigned. Martyr resigned. What are you supposed to do? These are two connected pass pawns. They're already reaching the 6th rank, which is already better than a rook. What are you supposed to do? All these pieces are closing in on black's side. There's so many winning possibilities. I think even hopefully a 1500 or 1200 player can get a win if they was facing a grandmaster. But this position is very simple, very clear cut, and there's a few things that we learned. First of all, this is how you beat a French defense. Secondly, do a rook lift when you have to. Like, that was an unexpected rook lift. Now you got that in your repertoire. Hey, I can do rook h3 if I push up this h4 pawn against the French defense. All right? And then secondly, when you see your opponent do weird moves like they did with these knights moved so many times. I don't even know what black was doing. Look for an opportunity and seize the moment. And this would have never worked if Fabiano Caruana would have never seen that tactic of sacrificing that rook on this g6 square. Look back in the video, figure out how he came up with this masterpiece. Because I know that a lot of you players want to play exactly like this. You know? Play like that. Play like a grandmaster. Come on, I know you can do it.